Yo, Nakama, how is it going? It's your boy Cozy coming at you with week 7 of the OP16 meta. Right now, we are in the starter deck meta where everybody's just testing everything from the new starter decks coming out at the end of July. I am excited for this meta. I'm actually playing different things that I never thought I really would be. And I'm here to break down the top of the leaderboard, see some couple of deck lists, give you some pricing options to tell you how much things are going to be as we roll into the second half of OP16, getting ready for OP17 coming out in August. So let's go ahead and hop into the rankings, look at some deck lists, and catch you guys right after this intro. All right, guys, welcome back to our ranking list here. And this is all from the sim data that has come out in the past week. Number 1, Red Green Luffy from OP13. Absolutely stunned to see how well this leader has done with the red support. And I can't wait to look at some deck list ideas to see what I can do to build into this leader. I've always had a hard time playing into this leader. I've always had a hard time learning how to perfect this leader. So I really want to get behind it so I can understand not only how to play it, but how to beat it as a player. At the number 2 spot, we got Purple Enel, still maintaining that top 3 spot it's always been in, whether it is OP15, start of OP16, now into OP16 and a half. Purple Enel still maintaining a really great spot, actually having the highest win rate on the board. So I may be going back to Purple Enel. Let's just see what a list looks like so we can kind of get some ideas of how it comes about. At the number 3 spot is Green Dracula Mihawk from OP14. Still kind of meeting in a 50% win rate, just a little bit above it. So it does fairly well into the meta. It was what it looks like. But I've been buying a ton of green support because not only the starter deck for Mihawk, but to transition me into the OP17 Shanks. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you love Shanks, because Shanks is life and Shanks is love. But I digress. With green Shanks coming out, buying green support's going to be a little bit more on the pricey end, but we'll look at see kind of what my wallet's going to be screaming after I take a look at the price lists of everything. My biggest shocker though is green blue Luffy from OP16, taking a little bit of a dip, still maintaining a very healthy 54% win rate, but just seeing how the starter deck support has been more so for slash characters or red Straw Hat support. Green Blue Luffy kind of just got left in the dust in this meta, but still holding out pretty strong. And then closing out our top 5 is that Marshall D Teach, the black yellow from OP16, still maintaining a very strong 53% win rate. Very, very strong deck. I feel it's going to be the next sleeper in the meta. And I'm really excited to see what this leader now does that we've shaken up the meta and we've kind of made things go upside down in a way. So let's go ahead and hop into our deck list, starting with Red Green Luffy. All right, you guys, this is the top performing Red Green Luffy list that is currently out on the sim. And I got to tell you, it does have some starter deck support cards. So when we look at this list, take it with a little bit of grain of salt. I'll go over what each one is just so that way we can make sure that we're on the right track. So looking at the Red Green Luffy, we are running 2 copies of the Jewelry Bonnie Searcher to find some Straw Hat support. Of course, we got to run that original OP01 Nami Searcher at a 4 of. We have 2 of the starter deck 21 Sanjis to make things unblockable, so that way they can't activate blocker when the specific character swings. Just a very long and wordy way of saying, give this character unblockable. We run that as a 2 of. We run 4 copies of the EBO4 Zoro to make our leader a 7k on their opponent's turn. We're running 3 copies of that SR7 drop Luffy in this one. I'll drop a picture of it in this description as well, just that way you guys can see what it looks like. It does come from the starter deck, and I do believe you got to buy 2 starter decks to fill this out, unless you just want to buy the singles. We're running 4 copies of the green Nami Searcher that came out in EBO2. We're running 4 copies of Laboon as some deck protection for this list, because I believe most of this list is 7,000 power or less, so it does save pretty much everything on our board. We're running 4 copies of the Usopp just so that way we can go ahead and restand our Dawn, so that way we can ensure that we have enough for leader effect. 4 copies of the Nami blocker, which, by the way, is absolutely insane in price right now. I think they're like $9 a piece or something like that. So if you haven't picked yours up yet, pick them up now before they start getting more expensive as the week goes on. 4 copies of the OP13 Sanji that restands Dawn at the on play as well as end of turn. 2 of the secret Fishman Luffy from OP13 to get that double attack in and to get more Dawn, so that way you have enough for leader effect. Running 2 copies of Brook for the resting anything on play, as well as restanding potentially that Luffy, the Zoro, or the starter deck Luffy. I think 2 of is a very healthy amount in this, plus it's a 1k counter. We're running 1 copy of Bad Manners Kick Course in this list, as well as 2 copies of Dead Man's Game, 4 copies of Electrical Luna to shut down the board, and then 4 copies of the red stage from ST31. Same thing, I'll drop a picture of it right now as well, just that way you guys can see what it looks like. But overall, this list is more focused on playing your searchers early game, because you're running, what, 4, 8, 9, 10? You're running 10 searchers, and very solid overall to find the particular things you're looking for. So you're really looking for like Usopp, Sanji, the Luffys, and the Zoro to kind of piece together some type of way to survive. You took out the Charlestones in this list, so those don't really have much of a factor anymore when it comes to like playing defensive. I don't think this is a very defensive list. I think this is a very offensive, very aggressive list now that we look at it, and we're really heavily relying on our leader effect to be that defensive tool, giving us a 2k for every Dawn that we rest. So essentially, we're holding about 10k in counter every single turn and just playing one small body or playing the big body, but relying on the Usopps and the Sanjis to get us back to that 5 rested Dawn before we pass the turn back over to our opponent. So cost-wise, looking at this list, without the starter cards included because they're not out on the market at the time of recording this, you're looking at $266. I believe is what the average is. Like 265 and some change is what I kind of did the research on for everything in this list, minus the starter deck cards because they're not out yet. So you're looking at somewhere in the $300 range, or if not more. I'm going to say not as much as $300, but we're definitely going to be closing in on $300 to buy this entire list if you do not have any of these cards. If you have some of these cards, great. But for price-wise, this is going to be a very, very expensive deck and kind of holds the true of expensive deck, best deck. I don't think so. In this case, it points to that as being the example, but overall, I like this list, and I can't wait to see how it does going from now till OP17 when all these other leaders come out. So with that, looking at your matchup spread, you do really well into Mihawk. You do really bad into Black Yellow Teach. You do great into Green Blue Luffy. You have the 50% matchup in your own, and you do okay depending on dice roll when it comes to playing into Purple Enel. So if you have a meta where a lot of your locals are playing Black Yellow Teach, maybe don't play Red Green Luffy in that local is all I got to say. So let's go ahead and take a look at a Purple Enel list and see how well it does, being at that number 2 spot in the leaderboard. Here you go, you guys. This is the Purple Enel list that has been doing the best on the sim this week. So looking at it, there is no starter deck cards that came from it because the purple support came for Purple Cat. So it's going to be more of the Big Mom Pirate stuff. So we didn't really see any changes to the list in terms of what cards. I think it came down to ratios. So looking at it, we got 4 of the Pudding Searcher. We have 4 of the Ohms, 3 Satoris, 4 Shuras, 1 Frankie. We bumped up to 4 Reiju instead of doing an even 2-2 split. We're running 4 Secret Enels. We dropped the Blocker Enel in this list. We're running 1 Divine Departure, 4 Vadi, 4 Elthor, 4 Kiten, 4 Dragon, 4 Mamaragan, 3 Gamma Knife. We upped the Gamma Knife count by 1, it looks like. And 2 Gum Gum Lightnings. I think we kept that the same across just the board from when I used to play Purple Enel. But I got to tell you, like, low-key, I might be going back to Purple Enel when it comes to at least my local scene, because I don't really see a lot of what Purple Enel is weak into in my local scene. But I also think this is the most reasonable deck when it comes to like price. I think the only really pricey thing is the Secret Enel, because it's just that good of a card in this deck, to be honest. But looking at what this list does, you're essentially just searching for events. You're playing your small bodies to draw. You have a ton of 2K counters in the list. You have some removal. You have some power reduction. And really, you're just trying to string Enels and maybe some Reijus to kind of close out the game. But overall, just standard Enel is what it looks like. I think the ratio's changed in a healthy way. And looking at price, right? I did my research on this list specifically because everything is available. It comes out to about $163 for everything on this board. Whether it is, if you have some of the cards, great, it's going to cut your cost down. But if you have absolutely nothing, then you're looking at a 163 price tag when it comes to this specific leader. And kind of makes sense. Like, really, the only big thing I think are the Enels and the Reijus would probably be the two biggest things that you have in terms of price. But even at that, that's a majority of the deck. Everything else was mostly pennies from what I saw. I know a lot of these Sky Island support cards, so the Vadi, Elthor, Keaton, Dragon, those are your penny cards. Amaragan is also the expensive card in this list. I don't remember how much they are off the top of my head. I'm going to put the price tag up here just so you guys know how much a Mamaragan costs. Thankfully, I got my 4 when they were like $5 a piece when they first came out. Like, they blew up in price because it's just a purple staple. Like, if you're not playing Mamaragan in a purple deck, you might be playing the wrong list, or you might just not be optimizing your list all the way. I feel Mamaragan is a purple staple. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. That way we can talk about it. But I think Mamaragan, Reiju, and Enel are your pricier cards. Everything else you can kind of get for the cheap and down below. But looking at your matchups, you just stomp Green Blue. That is absolutely insane that you just stomp it. You still hard lose to Black Yellow Teach, which is okay. For me and my locals, I don't really play a lot of Black Yellow Teaches, so I can kind of dodge them pretty well and still top at my local. You go even in your own matchup. You lose to Mihawk, surprisingly, and you also lose to Blue Yellow Nami. So for my meta, I see quite a bit of this. Don't see a lot of this. See a lot of this. I haven't seen a lot of this yet. I know at least one person's playing Mihawk at my local that they've kind of been ranting and raving about until Shanks comes out. And then, of course, the Blue Yellow Nami has kind of been on the downturn because Mihawk exists. And Mihawk, I think, just kind of crushes Nami. But we'll look at it in the next deck list. But overall, this is the top performing Enel list that we have at the moment. Let me know what you guys feel about this list down in the comments if you haven't played this yet. I might be going back to Purple Enel, no lie, because the deck looks fun. Deck does really well. And for me, price-wise, I have all of this. I think I'm short a couple cards in terms of the ratio, but I can just pick those up really, really quick in my local scene. So your boy might be playing Purple Enel. So let's go ahead and hop into our final deck list with Green Mihawk. Welcome back in, you guys. This is the final deck list we're going to be looking at in this video, and it is going to be Green Mihawk, which is the deck that I personally like playing because I want to get used to playing green again just before Shanks comes out, because I think I'm playing Shanks and I think I'm playing Kaido in OP17. I got to see what the Kaido support looks like. Your boy loves purple. Purple is always going to be one of my favorite colors to play, and I can't wait to see what Kaido does. He's my favorite pirate captain in the entire One Piece world. Of course, Cat's always going to be my favorite character, so to see him get some love in the starter deck meta, greatly appreciate it. But nothing beats the king of the beasts himself, Kaido. But I digress. We're playing Green Mihawk in this particular list. It has some of the starter deck support from Zoro, which is why everyone keeps laughing that Zoro's starter deck is really just the Mihawk starter deck. So let's take a look and see what we got here. We got 4 of the Otama Searchers. We got 4 Perona Searchers. We got 4 of the Restand Kiku, which is basically just your Mihawk leader effect fodder every single turn. Plus, it's a 2K. Really, really great 2K, by the way. We are running 4 copies of the starter deck Kinemon that came in it. Same thing, we're going to take a picture of it, and we're going to put it up here for you guys so you can take a look at it. We are running 3 copies of the starter deck Zoro that comes out. I believe it's a 5 cost that does stuff. Yes, it does stuff. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. Same thing, we're going to take a picture of it and put it up. We're running 2 of the Jewelry Bonnies that has the on play to stun a Dawn or a character. We're running 3 copies of Smoker for that Smoker effect, plus a really great slash target for the 6-drop Mihawk. It's great for the Perona Searcher. Unfortunately, it is a brick, but it is a 7k banner swing, so give and take. 2 copies of the 5-drop Perona from OP14 to stun 2 characters with a cost of 5 or less. And then on KO, we can rest 1 card, play up to 1 green character with a cost of 5 or less from our hand. So that's going to be like the target for Smoker. It's going to be the target for the Bonnie. Just pretty much really a lot of things. This is the starter deck Odin, I believe. If not, it's going to be the other way around. But this is probably 4-drop of 4 copies. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today because I'm so excited for this list. 4 copies of Odin, which is just really, really good in this deck. It draws, it stuns. I believe it stuns or rests. It does stuff. It does really great stuff into what this meta is, which are low-cost blockers or low-cost bodies. We're running a copy of the Law, which is great for bouncing like the Otama, bouncing a Perona, and then just being a blocker when we're at 1 life. 4 copies of the Mihawk or the Odin, either one. But either way, we're running 4 copies of Mihawk. We're running 4 copies of Odin. Both of them exist in this deck. The Mihawk lets you cheat another body out, which is really, really strong. And what green really needed was some more character pressure and a way to cheat things out onto the board, just so that way it keeps up with the tempo that the game has kind of progressed itself into. 1 copy of the starter deck 16 Shanks, which KOs a rested 9 cost or less, I believe. Or no, rested anything. It KOs anything rested. That's right. And just, I'm surprised this list isn't running the secret Mihawk. So I guess these are kind of just like interchangeable depending on what you want to do. But I like the Shanks better because it's just on-hand removal for anything big. So like if we swing and they, like in Black Yellow Teach, right, as an example, they rest their Teach blocker or they rest a big body, we can play the Shanks, pop it so they can't use that target for their leader effect, which is really, really great. And then we can rest this Mihawk and restand, or rest the Shanks and restand 3 Dawn with the Mihawk effect. Like, we get instant value because this becomes a 6-drop removal target, which is beautiful. Speaking of big things, we play 4 copies of Law and Beppo. Love Beppo. Especially when One Piece Film Red, like, oh my god, Beppo was the best part of that movie. But I'm getting a little off track here. Law and Beppo, staple in Mihawk. I think 4 copies of it might be a little excessive, but you do want to see it and you kind of want to string them. So 4 does make sense in the list. 4 copies of You Can Be My Samurai, just to draw. 1 Billion World Fold, 2 DMGs, 2 Go All Outs, and 1 boat. Very standard list when it comes to like your event package. The Samurai thing has been a thing with Mihawk before, and I'm happy to see that it's coming back, especially because I have 2 very shiny You Can Be My Samurais. So I got to look for 2 more so that way I can make the list look a little bit better. But, you know, I'm not an alt art purist in that regard, but hey, sometimes if you got some nice shiny cardboard, you got to get some nice shiny cardboard, man. Price-wise, looking at this list, excluding the starter deck cards because they are not out yet, you're looking at a price tag of about $161, $162, depending on where you go. So about the same price as the Enel. It is going to be a little bit more because of the starter deck cards. So if you're looking for something that's very, very strong and budget-friendly, you might be looking at Mihawk as an example. But I would recommend picking up a lot of these cards that do some resting. So all of the starter deck stuff I would probably pick up. I'd pick up your Shanks, your Laws, and your Peronas at least, because those are probably going to be going up in stock as more green Shank support comes out. So you can kind of see what the meta looks like going into OP17. I don't see those cards specifically going down in price. I see them either staying where they're at or slightly increasing as the weeks go on. But looking at your matchup, you're even in your own. You do really well into Teach, which makes sense. You get crushed by both the red-green and green-blue Luffy. Though green-blue Luffy is a little bit more in your favor. The only thing I really see with green-blue Luffy is them rushing you down a little bit before you can develop a board. or they grav blade your targets here for like Smoker to grav blade the bottom deck. They bottom deck your Law. Um, they bottom deck your Kiku, like stuff like that. I can see them really just bottom decking and not dealing with, and then just running you down, which is why I think the blue green Luffy is hard to manage but still manageable. And then you do really well into purple Enel, surprisingly. And from what I've also heard down the grapevine, you do really well into blue yellow Nami, and this is the check to blue yellow Nami now. But I like this list. I might be playing Mihawk as well as we transition into the second half of OP16. So it's Mihawk and Enel. Those are probably the two decks that I will be playing a lot of in my local scene until Shanks comes out and Kaido. And then I might be playing all four. I might be a 4-deck person next set, but who knows? I definitely do want to play Shanks though, and I'm super excited for it. But if you like this green Mihawk list, let me know down in the comments so we can talk about it a little bit more. And so looking at all of these lists, let's go ahead and give ourselves a summary. I think these are 3 very strong deck lists, and I dig them. So without a further ado, let's go ahead and hit our recap. And that's going to do it for our Week 7 analysis of the meta. Thank you to the starter deck cards for bringing new life into the meta, giving some support to some forgotten leaders, and really just shaking us up a little bit to see some new things come out as we transition into OP17 with more and more cards being released and announced. I'm excited for this part of the meta. I think anything 0.5 has always been a very new breath of fresh air when it comes to a meta. And to see it come out and see the great support that's come out, some new leaders that are kind of making their headway back into the meta, I'm kind of excited for it. I'm ready to see what happens. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know by liking this video, commenting, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell so that way you don't miss the next upload. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace and love, Nakama.
Thanks for riding with the vibe. Cozy games every time. Pulling leaders, making plays.